Hi, this is Mike Brown, owner of Death Wish Coffee Company. Welcome to Fueled by Deathcast.
I love Jeff, but sweet and high. Whoop, Mr. Motorama Coffee Spot.
Death Wish Coffee presents Fueled by Deathcast, the world's strongest podcast. With your hosts, the incredible Jeff and the amazing D-Man.
Welcome, everybody, to a very special edition of Fueled by Deathcast. This is the New York Comic Con 2017 Spectacular. I just got back from probably the craziest, busiest weekend I've ever been a part of, D-Man.
Have you ever been in a place with that many people before?
No, I don't think
Besides New York Comic Con last year.
Yeah, New York Comic Con last year, Death Wish Coffee was down there, and it was amazing. And this year, the numbers crushed it even farther. They just announced, actually, today that attendance exceeded 200,000 people for the 4-day weekend.
Now, why were they talking 300,000 people when the first thing came about?
Probably because there are conflicting accounts where, you know, it's the people through the door, but then, you know, it's also everybody that's working, all the exhibitors, all the press, all the people who aren't accounted for, like the handlers and the...
So there's more than 200,000 attendees.
Yeah.
But then if you count people who are working, the artists, the vendors, that's probably closer to 300,000 people.
Maybe. I'm not exactly sure. I know that we'll take the lowest number and go up, so at least there's over 200,000 people.
It's too many people.
It is too many people, and I'll start off by saying that, you know, I love New York Comic Con. I've been going for now 7 years, and it's gotten bigger and bigger every year. In fact, the last now 3 years running, it has beaten out San Diego Comic Con as the largest convention in North America.
How many go to San Diego?
About $180, 180,000 people.
Wow.
This year was the first year ever that I actually felt unsafe a couple times in that sea of people, because if you've ever been to the Javits Center in New York City, there are areas where there are escalators that you have to get from point A to point B, and that just becomes this absolute horrible bottleneck of just thousands and thousands of people.
I mean, could you imagine if there was... God forbid, if there was like a fire or something.
Oh my God. It'd be absolutely terrifying. But on the other side, I felt completely safe thanks to all of the security and the New York City Police Department that was on hand, constantly keeping us safe all over the convention. So I didn't fear for my life. I just feared for my comfortability, I guess, you know?
So here's the question. Do you think they need to limit the attendees of the con? We also talked about keeping cosplayers outside. So
that was something I learned this year. They do that at Tokyo.
Or do you think they need to do it at a bigger venue?
Well, there is no bigger venue, and they're actually trying to double the size of Javits, but it's going to take about 5 years to build that. So in that intermediate...
There's no bigger venue in New York City.
There is no bigger venue. The only way that it could be bigger is if they went into the aisles of Madison Square Garden, and that would just be a madness. You'd never be able to make any of that work. But there really isn't. That's the biggest convention center in New York City. So I don't know what the answer is. I really don't. Maybe sell less tickets. But I mean, obviously they want to make their money and they want to have everybody there. Everybody was in good spirits, and it was incredible. We were in 3 separate locations. We had our big black Deathmobile right out in the inner roadway serving coffee all day, every day. We also had a booth in probably one of the most coveted spots ever, right on the main floor, in bird's eye view of the Marvel booth right there at 1341. And then we also had a really cool coffee lounge at the Hudson Mercantile 2 blocks up. And it was incredible. It is me and Alyssa here with Death Wish Coffee. We are live from New York Comic Con, which is actually just a couple blocks down the road. We were at this super cool area called the Hudson Mercantile.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
We have a whole coffee lounge set up where people can come sample our coffee, and today we're releasing our comic book. It's available now. If you're watching this on Facebook Live right now, Go on over to deathwishcoffee.com. Every single purchase today will snag you a free copy of this book. We could not be more excited about this. Same creative team from the first book, writer Ron Mars, artist Rick Leonardi, and fully painted cover done by Joe Jusko, who is such a killer in the game. He's incredible, one of my favorites. And
guys, it's really awesome.
It's incredible. I'm personally over the moon excited because in the back of this book, I have an interview with that creative team and special guest Zach Wilde, who actually appears in this book as well. And it's just
let me
so
read
cool.
you a little excerpt
All right,
of what Zach has to say. Because,
Eat that microphone.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got to eat the microphone.
Yeah, there you
Sorry.
go.
So Jeff asks him about the comic book and
Yeah.
what do you think? And Zach replies, I've been looking forward to this because I can't wait to see my shaved legs.
And that's Zach Wilde for you. I mean, if you guys have listened to the podcast, our podcast, Fueled by Deathcast, before, not only do we get to talk to Zach on the podcast, but I've talked about him incessantly about if you're not following Zach Wilde on social media, go do it.
Yeah.
It's one of the most fun social medias ever because he's hilarious.
Yeah. And now he is a comic book character.
Yeah.
And it's awesome.
It's incredible. So, guys, go on over to deathwishcoffee.com and pick up your free copy today. And that's with a purchase of anything. You can go buy a patch. You can go buy 500 pounds of coffee if you want. Does not matter what you get. You're going to get your free comic with it as well. And if you happen to be in New York City, come see us.
And actually, the Mercantile is open to everybody, not just people at New York Comic Con. So if you are just in New York City visiting, if you live here in New York City, come by. We're on 36th Street.
Yep. 500 West 36th Street. Super easy to find.
Yeah.
It's available to everybody. Like I said, we're going to have coffee samples, comics. We have this cool couch. I'm going to be talking to some incredible comic creators all throughout the weekend, including the co-creator of Deadpool, Fabian Nicieza, who's coming in today. And we might even Facebook Live that too.
Yeah, so make sure you sign up to get notifications when we do go live because we'll be going live all weekend with all of these people. So just so that you know the second we go live, you can click right on that. Also follow us on Instagrams because we'll be doing Instagram stories all weekend with fun costumes. At Deathwish Coffee.
We got a bunch of fun cosplayers that are helping us out. And if you are in the city and you're going to New York Comic Con, not only are we at this lounge at the Mercantile, but we are directly in front of the front doors at the Javits Center. You can't miss the Deathmobile. It is big, it's black, and it's serving coffee all weekend. And on the main floor, booth 1341, right near Marvel. You just got to look for the big Marvel sign, and we're right near there. We got a booth full of coffee and comics again.
Yeah.
You can't miss us.
Yeah.
So who did you run into while you were down in New York City?
One of the cool things about coming back to an event like this was we ran into so many friends and new friends too. A lot of people, just talking about the fans there, a lot of people were coming up and being like, oh my God, I saw you at New York last year, or I saw you at Baltimore last year.
Yeah.
Wearing our apparel, which was awesome,
Yeah,
you know,
that is
and
really cool.
some people even coming up with like the thermos, you know, like to get it filled with coffee. So that was a lot of fun. But we did get to meet some new people, and one of those was actually somebody that I've always wanted to talk to, Fabian Nicieza. He is the co-creator of the character Deadpool, along with a ton of other characters.
So exactly, break down what that means as the co-creator.
Well, basically, the artist Rob Liefeld, he came up with the character. He was the one who had the idea to have the Merc with the mouth, this guy who kind of is like Spider-Man meets the Punisher, and actually Fabian talks about that. That was the antithesis of the idea. But he's an artist, so he obviously has to partner with someone who knows how to write a character, and that turned out to be Fabian. So he got a hold of Fabian and was like, I want Spider-Man versus the Punisher. And so Fabian said, all right, let's make this happen.
Would you say that Fabian is the mouth of the Merc mouth?
Correct. That is exactly what it is. The words that come out of Deadpool's mouth are exactly why that is. And
I feel like that's half of Deadpool because
Totally.
or even more. I mean, that's the fun part about Deadpool is that he's a wise ass. And it's really fun and he talks to you, the reader, as you read it, which is incredible and inventive. When Fabian started doing this, like I don't think there was any really other comic book characters that were doing that.
Little known fact, he didn't break that fourth wall when he was first appearing. That was a little bit later, but that was still Fabian's idea. But we talk about that. We talk about the other side of Deadpool, the green-suited Death Wish, which actually Fabian didn't even know about, which is kind of fun. Yep, you'll hear about that. And I ask him what it's like to have a character that you created actually come to life on the big screen and be one of the best movies of the last year.
I mean, come on. This movie was incredible.
Incredible. So we get to talk about all that.
I was so worried about it, too.
Yeah.
Because I was like, they got to be careful with this character.
Yes.
It's a very precious character to a lot of fans.
Yes.
And he's a very particular character. He needs to swear. He needs to be a jerk. You know, he needs to look the part. And God damn, did they nail it. They nailed it. It was great. How did he feel about it?
Well, you got to listen to the interview.
We're here at New York Comic Con with a very special guest, co-creator of a character you might have heard of. I don't know, Deadpool? I don't know if anybody's heard of it.
I thought you were going to say Gideon.
I don't know who that is. I don't know about how you guys out there.
He also appeared in the first appearance of Deadpool.
Right.
Also was the first appearance of Domino and the first appearance of Gideon.
Which is great.
That's the one I always use.
Yeah.
You never know, a comic could be worth quite a lot of money. Look at the first appearance of Gideon.
Gideon,
how much that comic is worth.
Yeah, how much is that worth? Thank you so much for taking time to talk with us, Fabian.
My
this
pleasure.
Fabian Nicieza, co-creator of Deadpool. And
this is not product placement.
Not product placement, no. We enticed you with caffeine to come and talk to us today.
Little, yellow, different.
I love it. So like we said, obviously you're most known for that character, but one of my favorite things that you did early in your career was New Warriors.
Thank you.
Incredible work on that. And I want to talk a little bit about what the comic industry was like back then, because you're writing a book that is about, kids as a superhero team, and then subsequently after that, you co-create a mass murderer, as in, with Deadpool.
I don't know. I call it mass murderer.
What was the landscape in comics like then, as opposed to what it is like now?
That's an interesting question. I think that it's a very different industry now than it was then. One of the things that we took at the office, because I wasn't just a writer for Marvel.
Right.
I was Marvel's advertising manager on staff. Then I became an editor on staff while I was doing my freelance writing for Marvel. So I was a company guy, business office-wise, business hat on, and then I do my writing at home, right? So we had a saying, I think it might have been Tom DeFalco, the editor-in-chief, who said it, your comics have to appeal ages 8 to 80, which is ludicrous, and we all knew it was ludicrous, but the kernel is there that your comic had to appeal to as broad an audience as it possibly could at the same time. So in some ways that meant a little bit of idiot proofing in your comic book, over informing in captions and character introduction and things like that.
Right.
But an 8-year-old kid could be getting that comic off of a 7-Eleven newsstand rack. They don't exist nowadays.
No, I remember those though. That's
but that's where an 8-year-old kid could get a comic, and it's their first comic. So you want to make sure that they know who the characters are, what their powers are, what their abilities are, and you want to tell an engaging story. You may end up telling it in 1 issue or 2 issues at most, sometimes 3 or 4. But you didn't usually have purposefully structured for trade paperback reprinting of a story.
Right.
So you knew going in, you're starting writing your story knowing that you have 6 issues. And sometimes some stories don't bear the weight of 6 issues.
Right.
As you can read any comic today and see that some don't bear that weight. So you have a very different industry right now. Back then, it was a much broader, wider appeal from Marvel and DC specifically than it is now. Marvel and DC comics really seem to sell predominantly, not exclusively, but predominantly to 44-year-old arrested adolescent males who get really, really angry all the time. They don't really sell to 8-year-olds. There's other ways that Marvel and DC try to reach 8-year-olds. Image Comics now appeals to a broad demographic, gender, cultural, and genre type too, which is great also. So there's good things about then, and there were some bad things about then. There's good things about now, and there are some bad things about now too.
Wow, that's really interesting. Another question I've always wanted to ask you, when you came up with the character of Deadpool, who is now seeing this huge resurgence in popularity because of, big movies and all that kind of stuff, what was that initial pitch like for a character like that? Because there was never a character like that in a comic before.
Well, Rob created Deadpool.
Right.
I call myself the co-creator of Deadpool because I am, because part of Deadpool's obvious fan popularity is a result of his personality, his backstory, his psychoses, and those are all things I brought to the character as the scripter.
Right.
And then the writer of his first miniseries.
Right.
Rob described the character to me very simply and very economically. It's Spider-Man meets Punisher. We already had a Punisher, right? We already had mercenaries, that were killers, and heroes, quote unquote, who were killers, like Punisher. And because Cable came out of a mercenary background, and Rob wanted to explore those aspects too, so that it wasn't solely about X stuff, right? He wanted to have a character that had ties to that mercenary background, right? So making him Spider-Man meets Punisher was a visual cue. He has swords and guns, but he bounces around and fights more like Spider-Man. I took it more from a personality cue. So I decided while I was scripting New Mutants 98 that I was a little bored, quite frankly, of writing testosterone-y characters, all going like this a lot. And I decided as I was writing what would be a change of pace that would be fun for Cable. Interesting way to look at Cable. What if the guy's a wise ass and won't shut up, and that's annoying as hell to Cable, and that's a side that we haven't necessarily seen yet. So that's what I did. I made him a wise ass, but it was as much to please me as it was anything else. It wasn't necessarily planned, because he could have been Snake Eyes from G.I. Joe. He could have been a silent assassin, and that would have been it. But I wanted to have a little fun, and I also wanted to make that scene about Cable, which I did. Deadpool appeared for 7 pages in his first appearance, and quite honestly, he could have never appeared again, and that would have been it. Right? That wasn't going to be the case, because Rob loved the character, and the fans reacted immediately to the character in a positive way. So we were going to bring him back, but I'm just saying it as an example. So as a writer, I'm writing a character who I don't know if or when will ever appear again. My job is to make it about the main character of your book, and the main character of our book was Cable. So the whole hook of that opening fight between them was that, as annoying as Deadpool was to Cable and as frustrating as it was, after Cable defeats him, he FedExes him back to his boss. And FedEx had just been starting back then, just to show you how freaking long ago it was. So FedEx was clever and cute because it was very new. All right. So Cable FedExes Deadpool back to his boss, and it's sending 2 messages. I'll take on anybody you send my way, and Cable has a sense of humor also. And that was my goal when I scripted that section. The fact that Deadpool came back again was great, because then we could flesh it all out. But my focus on that first appearance was about Cable, not about Deadpool.
Awesome. Do you still keep up with the character today, even in the books?
Not really. Sometimes when I'm working on something, I'll look at I'll ask them to send me some of the current stuff. And the editors at Marvel will, and I like the editors a lot. I mean, they're completely wrong not to hire me to do a monthly book, but that's also their choice, and I've been an editor, so I get it. So I'll read recent stuff. I've read a lot of the Jerry Dugan stuff, and when he did it with Brian Posehn. I've never read any of the Daniel Way stuff. I haven't read any of the miniseries. It's a no-win for me, and I've explained it. If I read it and love it, I'm jealous. If I read it and hate it, I'm angry. So why read it? It doesn't help me either way. You know?
Well, he's definitely, since you've left the character in other people's hands, he's worked on, he's become a thorn in Wolverine's side forever, and he's been a good guy and a bad guy, and now, a blockbuster movie and everything. And one thing that I have to bring up, or I know my boss will be very angry, and I don't know if you know this, but there was, and I forget the writer who did it, but it made a parallel universe Deadpool that was green, and his name was Deathwish. And
really?
Yes, and maybe talking to you, maybe I can get my finger on the pulse of someone who has a little connection to that, and we would love to see Deathwish maybe come back.
Really?
Yeah. He was a green version of Deadpool, and his name was Deathwish. Both Deadpool and Deathwish actually shared an ice cream cone together in like a crazy, multiverse kind of story arc.
This sounds more like a business arrangement to me.
Yes, kind of. I would be remiss if I didn't bring this up, but yes.
What a shock. That Deathwish happens to drink a lot of coffee.
Yeah,
Go
exactly,
figure.
Exactly. What did you think now that this character has kind of come back around and now with this huge blockbuster movie? I mean, one of the highest grossing R-rated movies ever. And also a superhero movie. I mean, you've got to feel some pride with that.
I was very happy with the job they did. They did a great job. They did a great job on a low budget. They made the movie they wanted to make the way they wanted to make it, which takes a hell of a lot of integrity in Hollywood.
Yes, totally.
And they stuck to their guns, and they earned less money to make it.
Yeah.
They were given less money to make it. So it really was a creative labor of pride, in that they felt strongly this is how we thought this movie would work best. The fact that it was as successful as it was globally is testament that their vision was right, which is really rewarding creatively when you get an opportunity to do that.
Totally.
When you stick to your guns, say, screw you, I will take less money if you're if that's how you're gonna play the game, but I'm gonna make the movie I want to make. And the movie makes $700 million worldwide on a $59 million production budget.
Right.
Those are good numbers. Those are numbers that even Hollywood accountants can't screw around with.
Right.
They can't even lie about those numbers. So I'm really proud of them for having done it. I'm not engaged in the movie making process. We've had conversations between the two movies about aspects of how to look to continuity for what works and how to ignore what might not work in terms of squeezing it together for this next movie, because they're bringing in a lot of new characters.
Right.
And then they go off and they write their script. And I'll have the same idea, whether it's good or not, at the same time as all of you do when I'm sitting in the theater watching it.
Right.
You know, and I hope it's good. It's good business for me.
Yeah.
If the movie's good.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with it. I would like them to make a movie a week, because my character equity agreement means I get financially rewarded for that.
Right.
So by all means, Ryan, a movie a week.
Yes.
Get to it.
I think Ryan Reynolds is not busy enough.
No problem.
He can do that.
So it's good. I'm glad. But I take exception to thinking that the movie put him over the top. The movie kicked him to a stratospheric level.
Right.
But when I was writing Cable and Deadpool Monthly from 2004 to 2008, it was one of Marvel's lower selling books, but it helped keep both characters alive, because editorially they had been killed before that book, literally almost dead.
Yeah.
And if this book hadn't have succeeded, even to the degree that it did, we may not have seen those two characters again for a few years. They might have, editorial might have said, these characters need to rest a while, right?
Yeah. The
book succeeded just enough that it made it viable for Marvel to see how both characters can and should operate, right? So I'm really proud of that fact, because I feel like I resuscitated my children, you know?
Totally.
Who were both gasping for breath. But during that time period was the rise of social media. It was the rise of Twitter. It was the rise of YouTube. You can't think that something just exploded now because of a movie when a cosplayer's YouTube video is getting 10 to 14 million hits.
Right.
There were not 10 to 14 million people reading comics.
Right.
So that means people who are no familiarity with the character from comic books were paying attention to the character himself.
Right.
Right. And I saw that starting to trend upward around 2010. It really started to explode when merchandise shows up at Hot Topic and Spencer and all that stuff. You're hitting a teen audience.
Yeah.
When my kid came home from middle school in 8th grade years ago and asked me, do I know who Deadpool is? And I said, yeah, I know who Deadpool is. Why? Oh, a couple kids in the lunchroom were talking about a video game, and they liked the character. He's funny. And I go, oh, okay, and that was it.
That was it.
Didn't even know that I co-created the character. But that was that child is now a sophomore in college, so we're talking about like 6 years ago.
Right.
So it's not just because of the movie. It had already clearly been trending upward.
Totally.
The movie basically booted it in the ass up to a stratospheric level.
Totally. And, you know, going back to what you said, I'm so glad that they took their time with the movie, because as a fan of the comics and of the character itself, you know, it really harkens back to what you and Rob were doing with the character in its inception of Deadpool, you know, and you get to see that translate on a big screen. But talking about conventions, a favorite game that everybody plays at conventions now is how many Deadpool can you actually count at a convention? It's always fun to see all that cosplay and stuff like that. You're just back into doing the convention game. Like, are you happy now that you're back into doing conventions?
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun It's fun. It's financially rewarding. It's an opportunity to see a lot of people. What I get a lot are Deadpool fans who aren't familiar with the comics but want to meet me because of the movie.
Right.
I get a lot of fans who are familiar with the comics who want to meet me because of the popularity of the character. I also get a tremendous amount of, I was 12 years old when I bought this comic. I want you to sign it now that I'm 38 years old. You know? And I get a lot of that. I get a lot of, I was 10 years old when I bought this, and then here's my 10-year-old son, and I wanted him to meet you.
Yeah,
I get that, which is off-putting to me because I'm only 28 years old. So you know, I get that. So, and that's all good. That's all rewarding because I was out of the convention circuit for a while. There wasn't an opportunity for a lot of old-time '90s X fans who have now come of age. Do not feel it is a dirty thing to have bought comics in the early '90s. If anything, those were the comics that appealed to them when they were in the transition in puberty, which is the key age for superhero comics, 10 to 14. To have that feeling. They feel the same way about the comics I did as I feel about like the comics that you know, George Perez and Chris Claremont and John Byrne and those guys did, which I was reading when I was 14, 15, 16. And I get that, and it's rewarding and it's enjoyable to be able to talk to people about those experiences.
That's so awesome. Well, I just want to thank you so much again for taking time to talk with us here at New York Comic Con.
My pleasure.
And we are on the main floor, walking by the Marvel booth right now. It's just starting to let in the masses of people. It's pretty crazy. This is your second convention, Thomas. What do you think?
Pretty epic.
Epic, right? Like, I mean, it just gets larger every day. You don't think they can fit more people in here, and then there's more people.
And it's like a crazy like LSD trip because you're combined with a bunch of normal people are thousands and thousands of people dressed in the most bizarre costumes, and you see your favorite comic book character mashed together with some fantastical creature. So
I know.
Your mind kind of just is like, what's happening right now?
It's incredible, and the amount of interaction is really cool too. When you get to see, like, I got to see this guy dressed up as really cool Green Goblin yesterday walk around a corner, and 3 Spider-Men like flanked him, and then they all got into a fake fight. It was really, really fun. It should be a pretty incredible day yet again for us. We got the truck, we got the coffee lounge, we got the booth that we just left Alyssa at, giving away free comics. We're just getting the lay of the land right now, and hopefully we'll have some more cool content for you guys later on. Also, I got to talk with a lot of the cosplayers. I would say 50% of the people at this convention were cosplayers. It was incredible. I saw some really great cosplay. I saw some really crappy cosplay. I saw some in-between cosplay. It was amazing.
Right off the top of your head, what was the most amazing cosplay costume that you saw?
Well, that's kind of a twofold question, because first fold, it would be like the ones that stick in my mind. And right off the bat, it's been all over pop culture this year because of the blockbuster movie that just came out. Pennywise the Clown from It.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrifying. This guy knocked it out of the park, and we got some pictures of it too. But also, there was the father walking around. I must have been a kid no older than 9 or 10 years old, riding a tricycle with the Jigsaw mask from Saw.
Oh,
and he would just come up to you and just kind of be a little creepy, and actually
kids are creepy anyways. You just don't know what they're gonna do. They don't have any rules, you know.
He hung out by the booth on the main floor, the Death Wish booth up there, and to the point where I actually asked him to please move along because he was freaking me the hell out. It was really weird, but I really enjoyed.
He probably loved it. Can you imagine how much fun?
It was a lot of fun, and I also enjoy, and I enjoy this every year, the mashup cosplay. So people are really smart, and they love. I mean, as us nerds know, you love more than one thing, so people like to mash it up. One of my favorite ones is I saw a Harry Potter Negan character, and for those of you who don't know, Negan is the bad guy in The Walking Dead. He carries around a baseball bat with barbed wire and wears a leather jacket. Yeah. So this guy was dressed up like Harry Potter in the robes with the little scar on his forehead and the glasses, but had a leather jacket on, and his wand was wrapped with a little barbed wire.
Oh, isn't that cute?
It was super cool. lots and lots of Game of Thrones mashup cosplay, which was fun.
Weird.
Another fun cosplay that I thought was cool was Ash vs. the Evil Dead. Bruce Campbell there with his chainsaw arm, but Ash was replaced with Ash from Pokemon. So it was Pokemon, you know, like those colors with the ball and all that, but he's had the chainsaw arm, which I thought was fun.
That's ridiculous. You know, the thing I always wonder about these crazy cosplay costumes, and I'm talking about the particularly crazy ones where the dudes are in a suit on stilts. It's giant. It's got wings.
Yeah.
You know, all these giant suits, and they're in what we were just talking about, a venue with 200,000 others.
Yes.
First of all, how do you get around?
Right.
Second of all, you can't be comfortable.
No.
I remember working one of those events in just, you know, my Vans instead of my sneakers, and I regretted it just because it was so. I can't imagine what it's like. That's what I see all the time. The dudes in stilts, right? That's got to be horrible. And I remember talking to one of them last year. The dude who was the Optimus Prime.
Yep.
You remember him last year? Was that at New York Comic Con?
Yeah, and actually he was Bumblebee at this New York Comic Con.
Oh my God, he's incredible.
Yeah, he's incredible.
And he's on stilts the whole time. I'm like, dude, you have to be sore. And he's like, you wouldn't believe it.
Yeah, it's crazy. You know, you commit to the bit and you love what you love. And I actually went out and I got to talk to some of these cosplayers in character, which was a lot of fun, and we'll show you some of that right now.
So I'm here with Macho Man Randy Savage at New York Comic Con.
Yeah, dig it, New York Comic Con,
Yeah. So, okay, how many sequins is too many sequins?
There's never enough sequence, because you need all the sequence in the world to contain the power of the madness,
Yeah, okay. Do you think there should be more sequins in the world?
Everywhere should be sequence. Everybody should have sequence,
I love it. Thank you so much, Macho Man. Are you going to be fighting anybody while you're here?
I'm gonna fight everybody who's around. I've seen Hulk Hogan. I've seen Goldust. I'm gonna go upstairs and see the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and Jake the Snake Roberts. I've got unfinished business.
Yes. I'm gonna be following you for that. Awesome.
Yeah, you better, and I'm gonna make them snap into a Slim Jim. Yeah.
Hey, Spider-Man. We're here at New York Comic Con 2017, and you know, you took time out of your day from fighting crime and helping out the Avengers to actually be here. Thank you so much for being here at Comic Con. Are you having a good time so far?
Great time.
Do you drink coffee, Spider-Man? How do you take your coffee?
Super black.
Super black? Just real, okay.
Death Wish Black.
Death Wish Black. That's a good plug. I like you. You're a good hero. I gotta ask. I've always wanted to ask this question of a superhero. What does your mask smell like?
It doesn't smell good.
Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time, Spider-Man. I know you got a lot of people to see here, and then you got to get back to helping the Avengers. So thank you so much, man. They can handle it? Oh, okay. Thanks so much, man. All right. Oh my God! So we're here with you at New York Comic Con. Are you gonna eat anybody while you're here?
Oh no! I'm just gonna tear them apart and rip them out of your pieces.
Oh my goodness! So I gotta ask, do you ever get the runs?
Oh, you wanna say?
I knew it. Well, I love it, man. I love that you're here. I feel very unsafe standing next to you.
You should.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
I'm here with mega superstar Robert Downey Jr. Robert, how are you doing?
Clean and sober. Clean living. Where's that kale?
Sean, we love you. Unfortunately, they shove you guys in a corner this year.
I think no more like the basement, like the weird uncle.
I know. What is up with that?
Who's like touching himself all the time. Like go to the basement with that.
Yeah.
It is. What I like about it is that there's no natural light, so you have no idea what time of day it is.
Yeah. No windows. No doors. They just kind of like ferry you in there. They lock the chains, and then you're just there.
It's like a kiddie pool of meat. It's as appetizing, and the smell is deteriorating by the minute.
It is. All right, so finally, for all of our listeners and our fans out there, what's the newest thing that they can find your work in?
That's a great question. I recently just did a cover for Gwar #1.
Yes.
For Dynamite Comics.
Gwar #1.
Kiss #1.
Yup.
I just did a pinup for First Law of Mad Science, who are here at New York Comic Con.
Yes.
And a bunch of cool stuff I can't talk about yet.
Yeah, because it's going to be coming out soon.
Spinning plates.
But go to your local comic book shop and get those comics, guys. Support your local comic shop. Support your comic writers and artists.
Go to the comic shop, say, do you have any Showman Gorman comics? They'll say, no, who is that? Then you'll go, of comics.
Of comics.
I'm selling of you on this obscure Death Wish coffee fuel Deathcast.
Yeah.
And then like, okay, well, can you Google it for me? Like, yeah, sure. Did you have a Wi-Fi? Do you have Wi-Fi I can hop on? They're like, no, we don't have. It's just for the store. Use your 3G.
Yeah.
20 minutes later, you're like, we don't have any of those books.
Yeah, not at all. But that's okay. You guys can find them. Guar #1, Kiss #1. They're out there. Go get it.
Showman Gorman.
Showman Gorman of comics.
Comics.
I did actually just do a fun bit with you, calling you Robert Downey Jr., but you have a really fun story with Robert Downey.
I have 2 really funny Robert Downey Jr. stories.
All right.
I used to work at this hotel that was hosting the cast of Sherlock Holmes at the time.
Okay.
And this place had just opened, dead of winter in New York. We're bored as shit. There is nothing happening.
Right.
So my future writing partner, TV's Todd Hunt, used to do this thing where he would take a roll of packing tape, put it under like his suit, shine like a little light, the flashlight, so it looked like this perfect arc reactor.
Yeah.
And that's like the thing he would do. We just coming up with things to do.
Right.
So he's like doing this in the lobby because there's no one there, and he's like getting it just right as in walks Jude Law, Guy Ritchie, Robert Downey Jr. And he's like, oh shit.
Oh no.
He puts it away. And like Jude Law catches, like, wait, hold on, what's that? What's that? He pulls him over and he goes, do that thing. So in front of Todd in front of Robert Downey Jr., Jude Law, Guy Ritchie, like big shitting grin, like that's my arc reactor. Jude Law, Guy Ritchie are laughing their asses off. Downey not having it. He's not happy. Because he thinks he bought like some sort of toy or something to like fuck with him.
Right.
So he has like take it out and like show off like that. This is kind of a cool thing. He kind of like warmed up. He just walks up to him and goes. Second Robert Downey Jr. story.
All right.
So this place was owned by Robert De Niro.
Okay.
So I'm sure clearly friends through the acting game.
Totally.
Clearly
Robert's
Bobby
got to stick together.
Clearly Bobby worked it out so that his grandson can be Iron Man. And there's like the most forced little interaction you've ever seen. Because this kid's Robert Downey Jr.'s grandkid. This kid is jaded.
Right.
There's no one this kid hasn't met. So here's Robert Downey Jr. trying to impress Bobby De Niro's grandkid. And he's like, hey, did you like Iron Man? And he's like, yeah, whatever. And he has like a signed Iron Man action figure for him. He's giving it to him. He's like, all right, cool, thank you. He goes, hey, do you want to make another one? He goes, whatever. He goes, well, just for you, buddy. I'm going to make another one just for you. And I'm just in the corner like, this is amazing.
Oh, my God, that's amazing. The Adventures of Sean Von Gorman.
The Adventures of Robert De Niro's kids.
And Robert De Niro's kids.
So, D-Man, I also got to meet a veritable hero of mine, and this was completely by accident. So we're posted up at these 3 areas, and one of them being the Hudson Mercantile, and upstairs were panels all day long. And at one time, there happened to be a panel celebrating 20 years of Goosebumps.
Oh, wow.
I love those books.
So did I.
And
great with the covers, right? Who did the artist?
I forget who the artist was.
He nailed it, man.
The name escapes me, but the name of the writer is R.L. Stine, and he was there. He was actually there, and he signed over 300 books for everybody who was waiting for this panel, so they could get a signed Goosebump book from the creator, which was amazing, and then sat on a panel. Now, obviously, he's going to be really tired. The dude is just celebrated his birthday last week, too. He's 75 years old.
Wow.
But he's very spry, he's still got it, still doing everything.
Is he still writing?
Yep. And not only that, he needed to pick me up. So, thankfully, we were on hand.
That's what we're there for.
Yep. And we brought him some Death Wish coffee, and he had this to say.
Hi, I'm R.L. Stine. I write the Goosebumps books. I'm getting ready for my Comic-Con talk, and the way I'm getting ready is with Death Wish coffee. I want to say hi to all my Death Wish friends out there, and thanks for the coffee.
I think one of the greatest things about going to these events is not only caffeinating and fueling the attendees, but also the artists and people who are working there. And there are a lot of cool people, a lot of cool artists that are there.
Yeah.
And I love it when, I'm I'm thinking last year when we hit Artist Alley, and we were like, yo, you need some coffee? And they were like, yes. Yes, I need some coffee.
I do feel bad for the artists and writers this year at Artist Alley. They destroyed that area that it has been in for the last couple of years called the Hangar, because that's where the expansion of Javits is going to be in the next couple of years. And they stuck Artist Alley in the very far left basement area. It was a little bit smaller, a lot more cramped. And that first day, the AC broke. And it was really hot for those guys. So I feel really, really bad for them. But they all were in good spirits, you know, signing stuff for their fans, doing sketches for the, you know, the artists and stuff like that. So it was still a great time. My heart does go out to those guys because, you know, they've got deadlines to fill at the end of the day. They're at that con all day, and then they're going back and making sure that weekly book or that monthly book that they're on is out.
That's insane.
You know, so that was pretty crazy.
And one of the artists that we know and love is our favorite toy maker, Paul Harding.
Paul Harding. And Paul was not actually posted up anywhere. He kind of went to the con as a rover. You know, he was just kind of roaming around. But
he does what he wants. That's what I love about Paul.
But one of the things that was amazing is that at San Diego Comic-Con, the prototype of his brand new Joker and Bud and Lou, Harley Quinn's hyenas from the Batman series, those sculptures, the prototype was revealed at San Diego. So they shipped those prototypes, one of a kind, that's it. They shipped those to New York Comic-Con, and they were unveiled at the Sideshow Collectibles.
I was about to ask, is that Sideshow Collectibles?
Yeah. So
our good friend Sideshow Collectibles.
Yeah. So
Shout out to you guys.
So I ran into Paul right next to the booth, and he walked me through the process of creating these characters and showed me exactly all the little ins and outs of those sculptures. And it was really cool to be standing there talking to the guy that made the thing that looks so cool that I'm looking at, you know? And this is what Paul had to say. And I am joined by an incredible sculptor and one of my really good friends, Paul Harding.
That is true. Hey, Jeff.
And I'm glad that you're here because we're actually standing right in front of two new pieces that Sideshow Collectibles just announced at San Diego, and they shipped them all the way over here to New York for the Comic-Con. It's incredible. Your new Joker and Harley's, they're hyenas, right?
Yeah, Bud and Lou, the hyenas. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about creating those.
Well, first of all, I did these for a small company called Tweeterhead for their Superpowers line. Sideshow is distributing, helping to sell, obviously, too. So Harley came out first, and then they came to me, which I didn't do Harley, but they came to me to do the Joker and then the hyenas. And
how fun was that to do the Joker and the hyenas?
Well, anybody who knows me knows that I'm a Joker guy.
Yeah, totally.
Forever. And all I wanted to do from the get-go was make it the best Joker I have ever seen, and I tried. I did my best.
I think you achieved it. I mean, one of the things that I love about someone like you is you're a fan of a lot of what you get to put your hands on, and especially when you get to do the Joker, the expression in his face is one of the best I've ever seen.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, every single half a millimeter was thought out and planned. I mean, I've actually been thinking about this for a long, long time, many years.
Yeah.
So everything is completely intentional. That's how I see the Joker.
Now, when you were doing the hyenas, did you sculpt that as a single build and then do a little bit of variation, or was it like a super different sculpt for each hyena?
Well, we had a quick timeline for the hyenas. So yeah, I sculpted one hyena, but I didn't take it to a detail level. So then I finished one, posed it, and then finished the other and posed it, and then I did fur over it.
Wow.
So, you know, you can save weeks sometimes doing things like that.
Yeah, that's so cool. Well, I mean, you should be really proud of it. And Sideshow is one of the coolest companies out there, always pumping out amazing work from amazing artists like yourself. And together, the Joker and your hyenas, together with the Harley, make an incredible set.
Thank you so much. It's all about bringing the personality of these characters out to the fullest.
Speaking of personality, as a final question, what version of the Joker was your inspiration for this build?
For me, there is a penultimate version of the Joker, and this is a mixture of my perfect Joker and what I was influenced as a kid, which would be Brian Bolland's Killing Joke. And there is no better Joker.
It's the truth.
That's all there is to it. So yeah, that's always a starting point.
Yeah, and it really shows again as a fan, like I am too. your Joker really embodies that idea of the clown prince of crime, but he's also absolutely terrifying. He's a homicidal maniac when it really comes down to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And all that personality should be evident immediately. You know, from his foot all the way up through his legs to how his head is posed. That's what we wanted.
It's the total truth. Well, thanks so much for talking with us. So another surprise for me, D-Man. I love New York Comic Con because we try to, we go in there with a plan of attack. At least I do. As someone who's, trying to get a lot of content and talk to a lot of people.
But even with that plan of attack, we know we have to shuck and jive.
Yes.
And nothing ever goes as planned. And if you try to stick to the plan no matter what, you're going to fail. You have to be flexible.
Yes.
And you have to be creative, and you have to move on your feet.
You do. And I want to just shout out our good friend, Monique from Walker Stalker and Fan Fest over there. She got a hold of me on, I believe it's all a blur, so I don't know if it was Friday or Saturday, but she got a hold of me during the convention and was like, hey, some of our people, the people that go to Walker Stalker are on the regular, are at New York Comic Con. Would you like me to help you try and get in touch with any of them? And I was like, oh my God, that would be amazing. And in 2 minutes, she had hooked me up with Juliet, who has the incredibly hard job of wrangling movie star Michael Rooker.
Yeah.
And
is he a handful?
He's a handful.
I just think of Tommy Flanagan. It's like,
yes,
oh my God, could you imagine being Tommy Flanagan?
He's just like Tommy Flanagan. He will do and say whatever he wants. And
I love it.
So they were in need of some coffee. So both Thomas and myself got some coffee together, and we ran it down to the booth where in Celebrity Row, where they are in the Javits Center, where it's just flanked by security and all sorts of lines of people waiting. And he had a line of people waiting for signatures in this area that said no photos or video and all that stuff. And we walked right by security. Juliet was just like, Michael, these are Death Wish coffee. And he just got up, gave us all a high five, shook our hands, took pictures with us.
That's so cool.
Was so gracious and nice. And he's one of my favorites ever since, like, let's go back to Mallrats, Stink Palm.
Yeah.
Like, that Michael Rooker is funny, awesome, and always gets to play a kick-ass, badass character, it seems,
Yeah.
Merle from The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Ridiculous.
So cool. So thank you again for hooking all that up and being able to meet him.
And you know what? I gotta say, in our careers as Death Wish cronies and meeting all these awesome celebrities and artists and whatever, I don't think we've met a mean one in the bunch.
Nope.
They're all the coolest people.
They really are.
Or they're just pretending to be.
Or they're just pretending. Hey, when you're bringing coffee to people, I think it brightens their day.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
Maybe that's what it is.
You're never mean to your drug dealer.
That's true. That's true. Another interview I got to do, which I was really excited about and worked out perfectly again at the Hudson Mercantile, was with letterer and artist Chris Eliopoulos. And now, what's incredible about this is he started out in the game when lettering was hand done in a book.
It's not anymore?
It's not. It's all digital now.
Oh, thank God.
But so when you're looking at a comic book, all of the words he wrote out in that comic book. And even when it went to digital, he was working on a book for, if you're fans of it, you know it, called Savage Dragon. And the creator of that, Eric Larson, championed for him to continue to hand letter all through issue 100, way after it went to digital. But Chris is very savvy, and he has actually created over 200 fonts for both Marvel and DC that are still used today, and new technology to be able to do it.
Does that mean he makes a buck every time somebody uses that?
I don't think so, but I would hope so. He's also,
you didn't ask him that?
He's also doing some really cool stuff with Brad Meltzer, and some amazing stuff in the industry, being able to go to these different conventions and see people like that. And I get to talk to him and have this incredible interview right here. New York City Comic Con here with Chris Eliopoulos, like Metropolis.
You got it.
Just like that. Yeah. I'm really excited to talk to you, actually, because you do something that is a rarity in the business now, and that's lettering comic books.
Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit even about how you break into something like that?
Wow. Yeah. Well, I broke in about 28 years ago.
Right.
So I broke in when we were still doing it with pens and ink.
Yeah.
And it was an art form. I broke in because I got an internship at Marvel.
Okay.
They brought me in right out of college. I got a job in production.
Uh-huh.
And then because I had design skill and graphic design skill,
yeah,
they said, you'd be good for lettering. Let's teach you this. So I sat on my lunch hours, I would work at lettering. I would copy other people's lettering. So I learned the art form first. So I learned about type and how it all works together.
Yeah.
And then maybe 5 years into my career, everything went digital. Computers really took over. And a lot of people sadly didn't realize that that was the new revolution. It became so much easier to do. You could give 5 different people the same font and make them do a book in an hour.
Right.
So it became a revolution, and a lot of people didn't follow that. I saw it right away, so I learned as much as I could.
Yeah.
I studied computer stuff. I created my own fonts. I have like over 200 fonts of my own right now.
Wow.
And mostly right now most of our work is with Marvel. So I have a deal with them, and I have guys working with me, and I letter just most of all their books. So right now, you need a lot of skill in Adobe.
Yeah.
You need some graphic design skill.
Yeah.
And a lot of patience.
Yeah.
Because with the digital revolution now, writers get the feeling that they can rewrite everything over and over again.
Right.
Because it's easy now.
Right.
So that's where the patience comes in.
Yeah.
But so for most people, if you were trying to get into it today, I would say buy a few good fonts. Don't go for the cheap ones.
Right.
Learn by looking what others have done and try to match that. Because right now, it's more of just small press. It's like my crew has the Marvel. DC's got a couple people on staff and then a freelance. But, some of the smaller companies and independents are really looking for quality letterers. So that would be the place to go.
That's incredible. And, so many people, as a fan of comic books, I love every aspect. I love the art, the writing, and the lettering, because the lettering gives the written word, it's its own character. Because it depends on the font you're selecting or the way that you're having that character say the what they're saying, big or small or whatever.
Yeah, it has an impact on the storytelling, which is the big part. I've always said that letterers are the inkers of the writers.
Yes.
Because we sort of take what they lay out and make it come alive.
Yeah.
So that's what our job is to do, is to also make them look better.
Yeah.
And help them tell the story. So in a sense, you have to be a storyteller too.
Of course. And I think that's really important, and it's something that gets lost on a lot of people who are just, who might be picking up a comic for the first time and not even catch that.
But they should be. I mean, if we're doing our job right, I'm surprised when anybody wants to talk about lettering, because it's not the superstar. I'm not the lead guitarist in the band.
Right.
I'm the drummer in the back that nobody gets to see, who dies every other one, like Spinal Tap.
Yeah. You're imploding in the background, right?
That's it. And so it's not for me. It's sort of quietly do your job and not worry about this stuff too much. So but that's like one aspect of my career. I'm doing other things as well, but. Everybody loves to talk about the lettering for some reason.
Well, and one of the questions I wanted to ask you about it was, it's widely known, you did, I believe it was the first 100 issues of Savage Dragon with Eric Larson?
Yeah, and
what was that like? Because you said the industry itself was actually moving towards digital at that time. Yet you both were like, we're gonna keep this hand-lettered.
Yeah.
Was that a fight? Did you have to really fight for that, or was the industry open to that?
Well, the great thing about Image and about Eric, who is staying with me for this trip, he comes out and stays with me every year. We're buds. I mean, we're friends. I'm actually digitally lettering his book still. It's the only book I'm actually still lettering.
Oh wow!
Personally, but he loves old school, and I do too. I mean, there's definitely a difference between hand lettering and computer lettering.
Yeah, totally.
There's an art form. There's organic. There's a feel. People could look at Savage Dragon pages by my lettering, and they know what era it's in. Is it in the digital age, or is it before that? And we really wanted to keep going. It was the last book I lettered by hand. His seems to be always the last book I'm working on at the end. But we fought for as long as we could. But when you're hand lettering, it takes you 2 or 3 days to letter a book.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing it by digital, it takes 4 hours.
Yeah.
So. Obviously, for financial reasons, it's much better for me to do it digitally. And but I kept on as long as I could with him. But the work became too much. I had to deal with Marvel. I was doing a lot of books with them, and it just became a problem. And eventually, I gave up the reins, and then somebody else took over for a while. And finally, he realized digital had to be done.
Right.
And so he asked me to come back, and so now I'm digitally lettering it. So,
so cool.
It all goes full circle.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
But that's not just all of your career. You're an artist in your own right as well.
I'm trying.
personal fan of the Franklin Richards stuff you
Thank
did.
you.
I loved that stuff.
Thanks.
What are you working on now, other than lettering for Savage Dragon?
So I've gotten into children's books. So
awesome.
If you may, people who read comic books know who Brad Meltzer is. Brad Meltzer, who has TV shows and writes prose novels. He also did JLA and Green Arrow. So one day he called me up and said, I want to do children's books.
That's awesome.
So we're doing a series of children's biographies. They're called Ordinary People Change the World. We have our 12th and 13th books came out this week.
That's excellent.
I am Sacagawea and I am Gandhi.
Cool.
So there are moral lessons told in the story of the character always staying as a little kid, so the little kids can relate to it.
Yeah.
They've done really well. They've all been on the New York Times bestseller list. More for him than my art, but we've been doing that. I've also got a graphic novel out called Cosmic Commandos, which is for kids.
Awesome.
Which, here's a new one, if we'll circle back to lettering, is now that I'm all digital, I draw it digitally.
Yep.
And I now letter digitally by hand.
Weird.
So I've created pens digitally that I now letter digitally. Like, so it's not a font. So it's like it's all full circle.
That's really cool.
It's something different and weird.
So how has the industry changed for you since you've started in the industry to now? Do you feel like is it better or worse working in the industry today?
Oh God. Well, it's better for me in that I'm established and people know me, and I never have to look for work.
Right.
Which is a great thing.
Yes, it is.
The industry is tough. I do get worried at this point that we're losing an audience.
Yeah.
We're not expanding our marketplace too much.
Yeah.
We're not reaching out to new people. We're, as much as I love the direct market system, I feel like we're not reaching people outside. They're seeing the movies, but they're not coming to the stores to find the books.
Right.
But the talent is so much great. I mean, it's always great, but you just see the ability to get so many more talented people. Back when I was starting, you had to live in New York City to get into these big companies.
Right.
Whereas now we're getting people from Malaysia and Asia and Europe and South America who are working because everything can be transferred digitally.
Right.
So you're finding these gems in the rough that you haven't known about. And so you find these great artists and great writers who you might not have gotten to see.
Right.
So it's a little bit of both, and you want those people to shine. You want their work to be seen by more people. So I'm hoping somehow as an industry we find our way into more markets. But as always, comic book people are the best people.
Yeah,
so
totally.
Working with everybody is a joy. You may have your little fights because you want everything to be great.
Right.
And people have. That's the great thing. You're not fighting because people are lazy. You're fighting because you want to make it great.
Right.
So that's always been a constant in this business, which I love.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Finally, we're here at New York Comic Con 2017. How many conventions do you do a year?
This is pretty much it for me.
It for you.
And
this is the biggest one, so that's the one to do.
I feel like it is. San Diego, I think it's eclipsed San Diego.
Yeah, the last couple of years in attendance, New York Comic Con.
I was on the Howard Stern wrap-up show a month or two ago.
Yep.
And we were talking about it, and they had said that this was smaller. I said, no, the last I heard that this was bigger.
Yeah.
But you know what it is? It's so hard for me to go out and do all these conventions, keep working.
Yeah.
And I also have the kids' books, and they send me out on tours on that as well.
Oh, true.
But if you're gonna go to a convention, it should be New York Comic Con.
Definitely.
It's probably like the grandest of them all at this point.
It really is. And I always wonder, I always like to ask that question because I always wonder how you can all fit in all the work you have to do and the conventions and the book signings.
Sometimes
and
it gives a little. Some people have a little rough time.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people go to the convention during the day and go back to their hotel rooms at night to get the real work done.
Right. Because books still have to come out on Wednesday or whatever.
They don't wait.
They don't wait. It's crazy.
But it's a great time to see everybody. That's the good thing is you get to see everybody face to face for a few minutes and then hide back in your cubby hole and work.
Right.
It's all good.
Well, like you said, New York Comic Con is definitely the place to be, and I can't thank you enough for taking time to talk with us here today.
Let's go get a cup of coffee.
Yes, definitely. Awesome.
One of the things that I think might have been the most incredible thing I've gotten to be a part of at Comic-Con so far was our brand new comic book, Death Wish Coffee Presents Odin Force #2.
Curse of the Yeti.
Curse of the Yeti came out. We released it at New York Comic-Con. And not only was that amazing, giving away free comics to everybody coming up for coffee and everything and seeing people light up because they're getting a free comic, but we had on hand Ron Mars, the writer, and Rick Leonardi, the artist, and we did a signing of the book for an hour on the main floor of Comic-Con.
That must have been a zoo, huh?
It was incredible.
That's awesome.
It was incredible being able to stand there and know that I'm a part of this, and see these guys signing books and giving them away to happy fans. And I was telling people as they were walking up in the line, because a lot of people didn't even know, they'd walk up and go, Death Wish Coffee, and you have a comic and they're signing it. Like, what is this? And I would tell people, I'm like, Ron is known for creating an actual character of Green Lantern. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out episode 3 of Fueled by Deathcast. Rick Leonardi is widely known for his art on books like Spider-Man and others. Like throughout his entire career, he has wowed people with his art. And both these guys got together to make a comic book for us. It's incredible. And they were signing the book. People were walking away with such a highly collectible thing that they didn't even know.
Yeah.
A lot of them didn't. A lot of people were going up and going, oh my God, Ron Mars and Rick Leonardi, like, please sign my book.
I always love the guys who go up to Ron Mars and they have just a whole suitcase of books for him to sign from probably across 30 years. It's insane.
It is insane. I mean, we love Ron, obviously, here at Death Wish, and it's sometimes lost on you, like the career that these people have had and the impact that they've had on it as well.
It's not lost on me, Jeff.
Yeah.
I love Ron.
Yeah, me too. And it was so incredible to be a part of that and see people's faces light up being able to get such a cool comic book signed by some of the creators.
So I heard you guys had a little bit of help at New York Comic Con.
We did. We would not have been able to do what we were able to do without some incredible helpers, and they were all cosplayers.
Perfect.
So I have to thank these guys. First and foremost, Nova Spider-Man. Nova Spider-Man has been helping us out at conventions now for a couple of years.
He's the man.
He's the man. He looks the part. He
served coffee for us before we've even asked anybody to serve coffee
exactly.
for us. He loves us. He loves our product. He loves hanging out with us. We love him.
Yeah, and we had him on hand not only to serve coffee, which he helped out doing right on the main floor, but he also climbed up on our truck, took some pictures, and I'll tell you, when there's a cosplayer on your truck taking pictures, it definitely brings a crowd. And speaking of, just like she did last year, the wonderful Hendo came by.
Yeah.
She climbed our truck again, took some pictures, met with fans,
I think she cosplays every single day of her life.
I think so, too. I think her entire life is a cosplay.
I'm sure it's incredible.
And if you do not follow her on social media, go look up Hendo, and it's pretty amazing.
If you don't follow her on social media, do yourself a favor and follow Hendo on social media. Same thing with Nova Spider-Man, by the way.
Also, our two workhorses of the entire event, and that is Rachel Francis and Megan Palmer, both of whom worked multiple days for us, multiple hours, serving coffee, giving away freebies. Honestly, without them, it wouldn't have been as successful as it was, and they both were completely done up all the time. Megan with her awesome Kim Possible cosplay, and Rachel with a rotating amount of them, with from Louise from Bob's Burgers to Storm, and when she was Storm, she had these crazy contacts
the whiteout contacts
for all day long.
Ouch.
She left them in all day.
Ouch.
So I mean,
I hope they were
bit.
the good ones, because I know you can buy the cheap colored contacts that people just they buy and they put on, and then they get weird eye infection.
Yeah, no, they were the good ones. So, thank you guys so much for helping us out. Thank you to everybody who stopped by the booth. Thank you for everybody who stopped by the truck and the Mercantile and interacted with us, told us how much you enjoyed the coffee. So many people came up and were like, "You're getting me through this convention," and that makes you feel really good.
Yeah, like
that, because I know
I feel like there's good karma wrapped up in that, even though I'm just, they're having fun.
Well,
mostly.
I mean, it was a lot of hard work on all of us that went down there as well, and I know that I wouldn't have been as good without having coffee behind me as well, because it's just, not only were we running around between the booth, the truck, the Mercantile, back and forth, serving and all that, but you're also fighting crowds of hundreds of thousands of people. And even if you're not working it, even if you're just a fan, that takes a lot out of you.
And you need more than just watery, shitty convention coffee.
Right.
Because that's all you're going to find there.
Right.
And then just, I can't imagine, it must be like an oasis in the desert coming upon the Death Wish coffee truck at New York Comic Con. Just like, I'm always wiped out when I go to those. And you're like, how you feel like a hollow thing in your body.
Yeah.
You're like, how am I going to make this?
Mm-hmm.
And then you just take one sip of that black goodness and you're like, yes.
I'll tell you, most of this footage that you've been seeing on this podcast here is from the first 3 days. That fourth day was balls to the wall. We barely had any time to breathe on Sunday. It was the most people I've ever seen on a Sunday, and we just focused on getting coffee and free comics to the entire masses, and we succeeded in that.
So you just kind of put one foot in front of the other at a certain point, and I don't know how I'm still going, but here we are.
We just made it happen. So shout out to everybody who helped. Shout out to this incredible team of Death Wish Coffee that came down to do it. And I gotta say, man, I miss the crap out of you. I love going on these adventures with you, and I know that you took this year off. Like I was trying to take last year off, but got roped into it anyways.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you did, because you were able to rest up and actually go on an adventure yourself.
Yeah, and I'm sad you weren't there with me for this run, because it was awesome. We went out to see Zach Sabbath play at the Chance in Poughkeepsie, New York, and it was incredible.
That's awesome.
It was so good. I mean, that whole crew. Obviously, Joey Castillo, the drummer, Blasco, the bassist, and Father Zach himself, all top-notch, awesome guys.
Yeah, and if you want to hear about how awesome they are, all three of them are on this very podcast. Not this one that you're listening to, but on their own podcast episodes.
But birds of a feather flock together, and that whole crew is badass, and just a traveling band of sweethearts that look badass. In fact, I made a comment as soon as they came out for the meet and greet, Zach and Joey and Blasco. And, they came up to us first, gave us hugs, and we're like, yo, what's up? And it's like, for dirty rock and roll dudes, you guys smell pretty damn good. They just smell like cologne and fresh showers.
Well, you heard it here first, guys. You know how Zach Sabbath smells now, so that's pretty great. Well, I'm glad you guys had such a good time. I know a lot of the team, actually, that wasn't at Comic-Con actually got to go to that show, because it was just in Poughkeepsie, New York.
Yeah, so. we went down probably like 10 people strong, and, we went for the meet and greet where we got to hang out with them. Some of us hung out afterwards to hang out with them.
Awesome.
But it's good to see that whole crew. Down to like Phil, who's Zach's right hand man.
Yep.
He's his bodyguard. He's his caretaker. He's his best friend. He's been that dude for Zach for 23 years or something like that. Very cool guy. Also Telena, shout out to Telena. She is the best. She's the one who's like, make sure these guys have passes. She's the one handing us t-shirts. She's the one letting us know what to do and when to do it.
You want to talk about having to put one foot in front of the other? I don't understand how she continues to be so upbeat and just keep going all the time.
Badass.
She works her butt off every day for whatever band that she's helping out.
Because she's with a lot of bands in this moment and Nonpoint.
And it's like, and as soon as one band's tour is over, she's on that next tour. It's like, I don't think I've ever seen her take a day off.
She's a machine.
So
and
shout out to you, Telena.
She's awesome the whole time. Also, one last shout out to Boris. He's also making sure we're getting taken care of, but he's their tour manager, and he does sound for them.
Yeah.
So he's the dude.
Awesome.
They're all the dudes, and it was so good to go with that crew and see everybody again. And of course, for those who don't know, Zach Sabbath is a Black Sabbath
cover band
with Joey Castillo from Queens of the Stone Age, Eagles of Death Metal, Danzig. I mean, he's been around Blasco from Rob Zombie and Ozzy and Danzig, and also Father Zach, who I mean, I don't have to name where he came from.
Ozzy Osbourne. So it's okay that he's covering these songs.
And I mean, I remember the first time seeing them when they came through Clifton Park here. And it was like, oh, dude, he sounds just like him.
Totally.
Have you gotten to hear them yet?
Well, I've seen it online. I've never seen them live, unfortunately. I actually was very sad I couldn't make it to this, but again, we were both on our own adventures.
Yeah. I mean, his voice is dead on to Ozzy's, and he just plays every solo half an hour long.
That's awesome.
And the whole time he does it, there was like 5 separate times he walks into the middle of that crowd.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
He's surrounded by bouncers, and he stands in the middle of the crowd for like 10 minutes playing that solo behind his head with his teeth.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I had a good enough viewpoint where I could see his teeth actually hitting the strings for his solos.
That's amazing.
Like, I've seen people play with their teeth, but they're not really playing their teeth. They're tapping with their left hand and pretending to play with their mouths. Father Zach plays with his teeth.
So cool. So cool.
It was a great time.
Well, we both had a great time. We both had separate adventures. New York Comic Con is one for the record books yet again. I will almost guarantee that we'll be there again next year. And actually, we're gearing up for 2018. We want to be everywhere. And every time that we do get to go, we'll do another spectacular, because that's what's cool about this little podcast is like we like to do the ones on the road and give you a little bit of an insight to our adventures. But now we're back together, and the
band's back together.
Yep, and the end of the year is looking bright. We got a lot of surprises for you guys, so keep tuning in to Fueled by Deathcast every week.
Peace. We out.
This has been Fueled by Deathcast, a Death Wish Coffee Company podcast production. Thanks for listening.